You ever been using an app and it just freezes, or crashes, or does something totally weird? Yeah, we've all been there. And our first thought is usually to blame some sloppy programmer. But what if I told you the real story behind software bugs is way more complex, and honestly, way more fascinating? Let's dig in and find out where they really come from.
This right here. This is the fundamental truth we're going to explore. And it's not an excuse, it's just reality. Bugs aren't some weird anomaly. They are a normal, expected part of any software that people are actually using. So the real question isn't if there will be bugs, but why they happen in the first place.
All right, so let's start our little investigation by looking at the usual suspect, the one that always gets picked out of the lineup: bad coding. It's so easy to picture a bug as one person's screw-up, right? Like someone just did a bad job. But the honest truth is, it's so much more complicated than that. Bugs aren't really a sign of individual failure. They're more like an expected side effect of a super creative, messy problem-solving process. And this is absolutely crucial. We've got to shift our focus from playing the blame game to, well, playing the understanding game. Because when we understand the real root causes, we can build better systems to catch these errors way earlier, minimizing their impact long before they ever get to you. So let's start peeling back the layers. At the end of the day, who actually builds software? People. And that brings us to the biggest source of errors by far, the human factor. I mean, software is built by humans, and we're human. We misunderstand things, especially when the instructions get really complicated. We make assumptions based on our own experiences. We totally miss those weird, unlikely edge cases. And of course, we get tired. We get stressed. We get rushed. It just happens. It's part of our DNA. And listen, this has nothing to do with skill. Even the most brilliant, most experienced senior developers out there write bugs. For sure, their skill means they probably create fewer of them, but it never ever gets to zero. No one is immune to this. Okay, so if it's not always the coder's fault, where do we look next? Our investigation is going to take us one step backward, to the instructions they were given to begin with. This is where things so often get lost in translation. This might sound kind of crazy, but a huge number of bugs are essentially baked into the plan before a developer even opens their computer. They start out as simple gaps in communication. Take a look at this. Seems pretty simple, right? The system should send a notification. Crystal clear. Or is it? Let's see what kinds of questions start popping up the second you really think about it. For instance, when? Right away? Once a day?
And who gets it? The user who took the action? An administrator? Both of them?
And how does it get there? Is it an email, a text message, a little pop-up inside the app itself?
And what happens if it fails to send? Does the system try again, or does it just log an error and give up? You see, every single one of these unanswered questions is a potential bug just waiting to happen. So on top of human nature and fuzzy instructions, we've got two other massive forces at play: the mind-boggling complexity of modern software and the constant pressure to get it shipped yesterday. Modern software is this wild spiral of complexity. You start with one simple feature. Then you connect it to other features. Then you plug in third-party tools for payments or maps. Then you have to make it work on tons of different devices and browsers. And then you add real, unpredictable users who will always find ways to use it that you never imagined. Pretty soon, the whole thing is so complex that no single person can possibly hold it all in their head at once. Because of all that complexity, developers often have to build for what's called the happy path. They assume users will do everything right and that all the systems in the background will work perfectly. But reality is chaotic. People do unexpected things. Data gets messy. The internet cuts out. A tester's job is to live in that chaos and constantly ask, yeah, but what happens if that perfect assumption is wrong? And then on top of everything else, you just pile on the business pressure. You've got tight deadlines, not enough money, promises the marketing team already made. So what gives? To hit those dates, sometimes shortcuts are taken. Testing time gets squeezed, and suddenly, bugs become a calculated risk that the business is willing to take.
So given all of this, human error, vague instructions, massive complexity, and constant pressure, how do we protect ourselves? This brings us to the absolutely essential role of the tester and their unique way of thinking. A tester isn't there to criticize or point fingers. No way. They are the necessary counterbalance, the reality check for the whole team. Their job is to challenge those happy path assumptions, to ask those uncomfortable what-if questions we saw earlier, to go looking for trouble, and most importantly, to be the champion for you, the real user.
So what are the big takeaways here? First, bugs are inevitable. They're not a sign of failure. Second, most bugs come from gaps in communication, not from bad coding. Third, good testing is all about reducing risk for the business and for you, not about bruising anyone's ego. And finally, great teams look for causes to fix, not people to blame.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. The next time you find a bug in one of your apps, what's your first reaction going to be? Are you going to look for someone to blame? Or are you maybe going to pause and wonder about that whole complex chain of events that brought that little error to your screen? Because understanding that why, well, that changes everything.